Imagine a weapon so massive it could destroy bunkers buried deep beneath mountains. A gun so enormous that it needed its own railway just to move. This was the Great Gustav, the largest artillery piece ever built in human history. Today, we'll uncover the story of this gigantic cannon, how it was created, how it was used, and why it ultimately became one of Hitler's greatest military failures. Welcome to Military Power TV. Let's dive into the story of the Great Gustav. In the late 1930s, Germany's war machine was preparing for domination. The French had built the Maginot Line, a seemingly impenetrable wall of fortifications stretching across the border. To break it, Hitler turned to one of his most trusted industrial giants, Krupp, Germany's legendary weapons manufacturer. Their mission? To create a gun powerful enough to destroy bunkers made of reinforced concrete and steel. The engineers at Krupp began designing a weapon beyond anything ever imagined, a cannon capable of launching shells the size of small cars. But there was a problem. The gun's sheer size created massive technical and logistical challenges. By the time the Great Gustav was finally completed in 1941, the French campaign was already over. The Maginot Line had fallen, and the Gustav's original purpose was gone before it even fired a shot. Even by today's standards, the Great Gustav was an engineering nightmare and a marvel at the same time. It weighed over 1,350 tons, stretched 47 meters in length, and had a barrel over 32 meters long. Its caliber? A mind-blowing 800 millimeters, twice the size of the main guns on the battleship Bismarck. Just assembling it required 250 men working for 3 days. To transport it, the Germans built a special dual-rail track. Another 2,500 soldiers were needed to construct the railway sections leading to its firing position. Because it was so vulnerable to air attacks, the Great Gustav had to be surrounded by 2 full anti-aircraft battalions for protection. It wasn't just a cannon, it was a moving fortress on rails. The Great Gustav fired 2 types of shells, and both were terrifying. The first was a high-explosive shell, weighing about 4.8 tons. It could reach targets up to 48 kilometers away and create craters 9 meters deep upon impact. The second was the armor-piercing demolition shell, weighing over 7 tons. It was designed to destroy bunkers, capable of punching through 7 meters of reinforced concrete or 30 meters of solid rock. Each shell required its own rail cart for transport. Just loading one shell into the breach took dozens of soldiers and nearly an hour of work. When the cannon fired, the shock wave was so powerful that soldiers were ordered to cover their ears and stand several hundred meters away. It was less of a weapon and more like an earthquake in motion. Despite its impracticality, Hitler wanted to see the Gustav in action. In early 1942, the gun was sent to the Eastern Front, to the Crimean Peninsula, for the Siege of Sevastopol. Transporting it required 25 rail cars stretched over 1.5 kilometers. Once in position, it took weeks to prepare for combat. Between June 5th and June 17th, 1942, the Great Gustav fired 48 shells at Soviet fortifications. On June 6th, the cannon achieved its most famous shot, destroying a Soviet underground ammunition depot buried 30 meters beneath a mountain protected by 10 meters of reinforced concrete. After 9 direct hits, the entire complex was obliterated. The destruction was so complete that German officers described the scene as a crater where a fortress once stood. After Sevastopol, Hitler planned to use the Great Gustav again, this time against Leningrad. but the order was eventually canceled. The weapon's slow movement, enormous crew requirements, and vulnerability to air attack made it more of a burden than an advantage. By 1945, as Germany collapsed, the Great Gustav was destroyed by its own engineers to prevent it from falling into Allied hands. Its remains were later found by American forces near Leipzig. In the end, the Great Gustav was a masterpiece of engineering, but a failure as a weapon of war. It represented Hitler's obsession with size and spectacle, valuing propaganda over practicality. While it could deliver devastating firepower, it was too big, too slow, and too complex for modern warfare. Still, it remains one of the most extraordinary examples of human engineering, a symbol of how far ambition and madness can push technology in times of war. And that's the story of the Great Gustav, the monster cannon of World War II. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you won't miss our next episode, where we uncover more hidden stories of history's most powerful weapons. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next one, right here on Military Power TV.
Und das ist die neue schwere deutsche Artillerie. Aufzüge und Schienenanlagen befördern die gewaltigen Geschosse zum Rohr. Massierten Feuerhagel werden auch die letzten Festungswerke von Sevastopol auf die Dauer nicht standhalten können.